Will the United States men's national team win the World Cup in my lifetime? That's the question I'm going to answer today. And there's 5 points that we're going to cover to determine that. I'm Kyle C. Wilson, the angry soccer guy. I'm the guy that's angry. Now, if you don't know who I am a individual that's been in the youth soccer game, working for the last 10 years with children as young as 2 up to professional football players. Now, I also own my own academy. I've been a director and I've been a coach. So I've kind of seen everything when it comes to the youth game. I don't have every answer, but I will answer the question, will the United States men's national team win the World Cup in my lifetime? Now, I do believe it's possible only if these 5 things happen. The first one is the official age group formats change from 77 and 99 to 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5 for children aged 6 to 12. Compensation for formation becomes a reality. This means promotion and relegation as well needs to happen across the country. College soccer introduces or adopts a full year-round calendar because I believe college soccer is a great pathway, especially for like a second tier, like MLS Next Pro type of thing. Professional leagues require that, so MLS, USL require that at least 60% of the players are homegrown because right now that's not the case, especially in the MLS. The average is 60% or higher are international players. And then the last one would be introduce a program where football, I call it football instead of soccer, starts at home. That way, parents, when they have children that are a year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, they're starting to get touches on the ball, not focused on passing, but mastering the ball before they even start team concepts, which I think will be game-changing. And then, of course, you need to wait 20 or 30 years, if not longer, to see the end result of that product, which would be a World Cup win. If those things happen in my lifetime, yes, we can win a World Cup. If they don't, I don't believe it. But I'll dive into each one a little bit more. I believe that we are not meeting the American children at their level, which is why I talk about changing the age group formats from 77 and 99 to 2v2 for U6, U7, and U8, 3v3 for U9 and U10, and then 5v5 for U11 and U12, because the average American player is not practicing at home when they're 1, 2, 3 years old. And then they're going into a team setting like recreational, for example, at U5 or U6 with no soccer experience, no cultural experience in terms of watching the game at a professional level. They've maybe seen 2 or 3 games, maybe 20 if you're lucky, right? So there's no buy-in from a cultural perspective. So if we're going to incentivize children to want to play pickup football, then we need to meet them at their level by providing them official game formats where U.S. Soccer comes out and says 77 and 99 or no more, at least into the later ages, but U12 and younger, 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5, and then you would get parents bought into bringing their child to more football of 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s, 4v4s, 5v5s, and I'll give you a different example to think about it. Think of basketball. Basketball, we have a huge pickup culture in basketball because they can play up to 5v5 on a basketball court. Well, for an American player, children, to replicate the game, it's 77. Well, if it's 77, you need 14 players to play 77. That's extremely hard, especially in today's age, in the modern world, in the 21st century, to do that. Okay? Compensation for formation, promotion, relegation is really the key thing here. If the United States is going to be a powerhouse, dominant in producing talent, one, because I don't believe you can win the World Cup at a high level, and based on my research, there hasn't been a country in the modern era to do that without being an exporter of talent, which means you're producing players consistently. The best formula to produce players is through compensation for formation, which every country that has it is through promotion and relegation, bar none. Now, you could argue that MLS academies have compensation for formation, yes, but this is a separate video to talk about it, but there are many flaws with their model, which I'll get into in a separate video. Okay? College soccer moving into a year-round schedule. Huge, because I think college soccer, especially with all the current formatting of like NIL, that allows different assets to happen. Obviously, college football and basketball are the primary drivers, also with Title IX. But if we change it to a year-round format instead of just a 3-month calendar, you can get a lot more out of it. Because when I played college soccer, I played D2. And boy, it's 3 months. So if you're injured, you miss the entire season. And then spring season's a joke. Any college soccer player will tell you it's a joke. So it's changing the formula to be year-round because that can basically be the feeder tier or be like the sub-professional or could be professional at some point based on the current rulings and whatnot, where it could be the division to get you ready for professional. Is everybody going to be professional? No, but if it's modified like that, I think you have a greater asset longer term for development. Okay, next one would be the homegrown rule. So obviously MLS has a homegrown rule, but the problem is if you look at the rosters, like I live in Orlando. Orlando City starting 11, normal starting 11, I don't believe that there's one American player. But I'll give you a counterexample. We look at a program in Brazil, right? I was in Brazil for a couple of weeks, less than a month ago. The team that won the league, the team that won is called Botafogo. Botafogo have 19 or 20% foreign players on their roster, which means 80%, let's just call it 80. 80% are Brazilian players. They won the league, and they also won the Copa Libertadores, which is like the equivalent of the Champions League in South America. They won that with 20% international players, which means the domestic Brazilian players they're producing, or at least on the roster, or talent, are good players. And then I did some more research. I looked at the top 4 teams that finished in the league, all below 25% foreign players. All of them. The top 4, so Palmeiras is another example, right? Had less than 25% or 25% or lower foreign players compared to domestic. The average MLS squad, based on my research, is around 60% foreign. So like Inter Miami, I think is 80%. Right? Well, when are the American players going to get their chance to play? That's a phenomenal question to ask, and I'd like an answer. Because if the American player is not going to play in the American League, why would they be expected to play in a foreign league, say the Premier League or La Liga? They can't even play in our league, yet we expect them to go play in a foreign league. So if we're going to be developing better players, our players need to play in our league. Bar none. Like, you can argue with it all day if you want. Better talent here. Yes, I agree. It's great having Messi here, for sure. But if we're going to be producing a World Cup winning squad, American players need to play in America. There's no other question about it. And then the last one would be introducing football starts at home. That means children that are 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years are getting significant reps on the ball. They're not passing. They're pulling. They're pushing. They're shifting inside, outside of the foot. They're getting repetition like that to master the ball before they even start club, before they start recreational. And we will have significantly better players because of that. And then they can practice at home against mom and dad, against other neighborhood kids, other 3-year-olds, right? Local families. I used to play pickup soccer all the time when I was a kid. Now, obviously, 3 is an example, extreme example. But the point is, mom and dad could play at home against little Johnny, little 3-year-old little Johnny, and practice 1v1. Football starts at home. For sure, no questions asked. If we're going to be producing, 1, a football culture, but 2, to even give the United States men's national team a chance to win a World Cup in the near distant future before I die, then those type of things need to happen. And then, of course, when all these changes are then implemented, wait 20 to 30 to 40 years. And then maybe we can be even remotely serious about winning a FIFA Men's World Cup.